Hi, this is Mick, Elliott, contributing editor at Electronic Specifier. I'm here at Electronica with Dave Doherty, the CEO of DigiKey. Dave, first of all, can you just give us a little rundown on how 2024 has been and maybe just a little outlook for 2025?
Sure, I'll do my best. Again, when you ask about 2024, it's from what aspect? From a revenue, it's not going to be one of those that we'll want to remember for long. But when you look at activity or how we're gearing up, we believe for the next cycle, it's been extremely exciting. We've had record number of customer engagements, record number of shipments going out the door, and so people are preparing. Coming off of the last cycle where there was a lot of, I need to find parts for existing design, now it's all about how do I innovate and find new products that people want to use.
So you're definitely seeing more engineering design activity.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that tale of two cities. From a design activity, there's no doubt. Record high. Matter of fact, October, more customers than we have ever shipped product to in Europe, in EMEA overall. And I think that's a continued trend for the last 15 months, which should bode well for our future together.
I mean, looking at the regions, Asia Pacific seems to be coming back, Americas is doing okay, Europe seems to maybe struggling a little bit. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it again from a revenue perspective. And also remember, Asia probably had some of the biggest declines, so it's coming back from the ashes, so to speak, but we're thrilled to see it. The Americas has been a little bit more stable over time, and while we're concerned with the overall production revenue coming out of EMEA, we are very excited, as I mentioned earlier, on the design activity. This has been a region that we think from our origins in the States is much more like the Americas with the number of folks and the number of products coming from here.
I mean, we've heard over the past couple of years about inventory indigestion. Do you see that clearing, or is it still in play?
Yeah, both. It is clearing, but it's much slower, much more slowly than I think we had ever envisioned. But it's a mix issue. It depends on what technology and semiconductors, some of the more higher proprietary semiconductors, there's still a little bit of inventory. Other areas, book-to-bill, have been above one for some time now. So it's really a matter of, it's that magical mix that you're trying to get right.
Is it semiconductors that have been the bigger problem overall in the marketplace rather than passives and EMEC?
I think so. I think the shortages up front were more severe in that area, so there was more of this pent-up demand, and where I think some of the supply chain was a little more stable with connectors and with passives, so it was a little bit more moderated. But with the semiconductors, it was the deepest. Our in-stocks got the lowest, but boy, when that faucet turned on, they came in a hurry, and probably at a bad time as demand was starting to soften, so there was clearly some overproduction produced.
I mean, I'm hearing as well that some of the contract manufacturers are now looking to just coming in maybe for more fill-in orders than big volume orders. Is that happening with DigiKey?
And that is exactly the case. Back to the mix is I've got plenty of this part, but I need some of this. So we're starting to see those orders come in as they try to get their mix back into balance.
Looking at market segments, is there any that you begin to see more activity in, whether it's AI or ML or?
Yeah, certainly you can read any trade journal, and while we're not the biggest player in AI, it's clearly huge. Now, it's starting with these mega centers, but we expect to continue to see that go to the edge, to the peripherals, and some of these micro centers, and so we're starting to feel that. But even the general industrial, where the overall innovation is happening, I think the medical will still be strong. Automotive is hurting, but again, not a place, especially the tier ones where we're a big player. Now that will affect the overall consumption of components, so we'll feel the secondary effect. Right now, it's a benefit with shortened lead times and availability of product pretty high right now.
And looking at investments, I mean, the obvious one recently is the distribution center. Is that up and running and 100% now?
Yeah. That distribution center was a beast getting up, but it's been almost a year now. We've been fully converted where all product is coming out of the new warehouse, and right behind that, it's kind of like trying to change the engine of your car while it's driving down the road. Our new Oracle finance system went live last week. We've got a new CRM, new order management system, new order procurement system, all in the works. It's one of those systems that have served you well, but you need to continue to innovate to be able to work at that speed of digital that your customers want. You can't have that old proprietary code. You have to be nimble and quick, and the ability to advance feature sets very frequently.
And what does that bring you in terms of being able to increase inventory?
Yeah, I think the basic model is being able to service customers. Customers love working with a high service partner, but they don't want to necessarily have to pay that high cost. So how can we become more scalable and through that automation so that it allows for growth and expansion, but remain competitive so we can try to make the best of both worlds of what our customers expect?
and new product introductions. I look on your website; they seem to be every day almost.
Oh, it's it's another area where our manufacturers have really turned them back up, and we're ready to take them on as fast as they can produce them. So, yeah, the number of introductions this year has really exceeded our expectation, and we expect that to continue. Until we get into some sort of a crunch again. People are innovating in so many different areas of the spectrum. Suppliers are allowing that through the myriad of products that they're introducing, and the level of sophistication and integration. It's a great place to be right now.
And are you still looking at adding new lines to?
Constantly, we think our customers are looking to us as a validation to do some of that pre-screening. There are a number of companies out there, but it's a little bit smaller subset of guys that you want to stake your reputation, your next generation design on. So we've been given that responsibility, and we take it very seriously. The big companies are the mainstay guys that will always be around, but innovation often happens from those small, nimble companies. And so we certainly work with the big ones, but we have an eye towards those little ones that are introducing that product at a staggering rate.
And how does it balance out? Do you find some of these companies, or did some of those companies inevitably, I guess, come and find you as well?
It's kind of changed over time. In the early days, I think we had to be much more aggressive, but we've been benefit from more of those companies looking towards us. But you don't want to be blind. You want to be able to do both. And then once you've identified each other, how do you vet? Not only do we think they are good, but it's important to us to make sure we bring a value proposition to them. If they're really looking at a narrow customer segment, looking to go deep, they may be better partners than us. It's important to us. We believe in a relationship for the long term, so we want it to be a win-win.
Okay, and the technology forum seems to be, very picking up a lot of pace there. Are you looking at putting more content and building more of a community there?
Absolutely. Communities are so critical because nobody serves engineers like fellow engineers, and we try to think in this one-to-many approach. So when questions come into the website or they come into the chat, we try to respond to them, unless it's specifically proprietary, back onto the web. We're getting over 140,000 visits per month to that tech forum, and we see that only continuing to grow. And I think there's a level of credibility from our customers when they see that, and we're also using things like Arduino platforms to put things out there into the open forum so that people can see firmware, code, etc. We share what we've done with it, and we encourage them to copy and take advantage of it to speed their time to market.
And you work closely with other manufacturers to supply content there?
Definitely. Our manufacturers, no one's going to go as deep in the knowledge of their products as them, so we work in close collaboration with those manufacturers, and we feed each other with topics. If we see questions in certain areas, we want to make sure that their app notes reflect some of those types of questions, and they feed us with questions that we're likely to see, and when we need help, we're going back to them for some of those responsive. It behooves all of us to take care of our mutual end customers.
Okay, and then anything new on the e-commerce front, taking that forward, making it easier for customers to buy product from DigiKey?
Yeah, it changes every day. When we take those feedback, all of us in the company look at the feedback that comes in through the web or through our inside salespeople on what types of additional features do they want. It is all about speed. Some of it's just the median, making sure that these have all been produced in an API that they can consume inside their company. Or we'd like to see this type of searchability. Can we search on prices? Can we have these parameters? Can we limit this? Can we filter that? You know what, the creativity of our customers we see never ending, but our ability to respond more quickly to that is where we're trying to build a flexible platform.
Okay, one of the areas you've been looking at and expanding into is automation and control. Can you give us an update there and
Sure.
what you're looking at going into the future?
Yeah, it's interesting. Automation and control is one of those areas where we get surveys back from media folks like yourself that would say, you're the number one recognized guy for semiconductors or passives or connectors, and for a while we'd get the same ranking for industrial automation products, and we say, geez, wouldn't it be nice if we actually stock some? So we try to earn our place by bringing in some of the additional portfolios from additional suppliers, and now we've got over 400 suppliers in that area. It's our fastest growing segment, and a lot of that is just integration of some of the discrete components that have now been put into PLCs, sensors, etc. And so, we've got some suppliers that have launched with us. We haven't even announced it yet, but as soon as product goes up on that website, they're shocked that it starts to sell. If we can bring that to this large visible audience, we think, again, it's a win-win.
And I guess things like eMech connectors straddle the straddle the two markets, electronics and automation and control?
Big time. There's a lot of synergy to that. In fact, our leader in that space, Heather Filaro, has had the interconnect and the EMAC, and we've now put the industrial automation under her so that we look for synergies across those technologies exactly as you described.
I mean, some of the automation control products are bigger than the normal products you send around the world. So how are you handling that in terms of both the logistics and pricing in actually getting the product delivered?
You bring up a great point because our model has been everything comes into one warehouse, ships around the world. We also introduced a marketplace where we can, some of those products that are either large in size or very heavy in dollar value, and our suppliers are saying, hey, we'd prefer to drop ship, but we'd like to use your e-commerce engine. So industrial automation has fit very well into that space where that product is all being shown. The customers can do their transactions, their credit with us, but sometimes that product will ship from us and sometimes it'll ship directly from the manufacturer, which becomes especially helpful around the world where that product's not coming all the way in, say from Germany to us and then back to a customer in Germany. How can we get it intra-region? So we still believe in a one warehouse model, but how can we augment that with some other sophistication of logistics?
Okay. And finally, just looking at corporate and sustainability to innovation, are you taking steps there?
Critical area for us. As you know, we're from a very small community in northwest Minnesota, so we take those attributes extremely carefully and personally. And so, it starts with, you mentioned the new warehouse. Most elements of that design were built in, whether it's the LED lighting or the way that we cycle through the power and bring the belt down when it's not in use, or the materials that we use to ship the product to make sure that they're recyclable. We've now got a whole website dedicated to the different steps that we're taking. And within our small community, having these shared gardens and other things that we can do. And we believe the broader we make the portfolio, things like multi-ship consolidation where customers can order from us throughout the day, but we'll consolidate it down into one shipment to go out to them, because that question comes up in EMEA a lot that, well, shipping from the US, is that the most sustainable or reasonable, or is it sound? And I said, perhaps not if you're shipping from multiple warehouses, but when you get all of that product from one, we believe it's a net positive.
And finally, 2025, you optimistic or?
You know what? We're always optimistic because we see the level of activity happening now. Now, I'm going to be hard-pressed if I'd be in another business if I could forecast exactly from a revenue perspective. But I have not met a person at this show or throughout our industry that has anything but extreme optimism in the health of our industry long-term. Being private, it's nice that our primary care about is our end customers. We don't have shareholders. We worry about our stakeholders. And so we're in it for the long run. This has frankly given us the time to reload and be prepared and be ready as that upcycle comes. But the word on the street out here is expect some segments to pick up later in the first half of next year, but we may be looking at this same time next year until we really start to see the rebound.
Okay. Dave Doherty, CEO of DigiKey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mick.
Brilliant. That's lovely.